The Grand Armada crossed into Earth's border zone in perfect formation. 2,000 warships, each one bristling with weapons and filled with warriors eager for battle. At the center of the fleet was High Sovereign Morith's personal vessel, a mountain of metal and fire that had never known defeat. Morith watched from his command throne as his ships advanced. He had prepared for this moment carefully. New sensors had been installed on every vessel. Countercloaking measures had been activated. His commanders had orders to fire at the slightest sign of human presence, but the sensors showed nothing. The space ahead was empty. "Continue forward," Morith ordered. "They are hiding. We will find them." The fleet moved deeper into human territory. Minutes passed, then hours. Still nothing appeared on any scanner. Aboard the ESS Silent Wind, Captain Bei Jun-seo watched the enemy formation with calm eyes. His ship was positioned directly in the path of the Armada, completely invisible to their sensors. "They have improved their detection systems," Sergeant Kang Yuna observed. "More powerful scanners, wider frequency ranges." "It does not matter," Jun-seo replied. "They are looking for something that exists in normal space. We do not." He touched the communication control. "All Veil units, this is Captain Bei. The Armada is in position. Admiral Park has given the order. Begin." Throughout the border zone, hundreds of human vessels came to life. They did not move toward the enemy fleet. They simply appeared inside it. The Moravi had prepared for attacks from outside. They had strengthened their shields. They had increased their firepower. They had positioned their ships to support each other. None of it mattered. Human vessels materialized inside Moravi formations, sometimes within meters of their targets. Before the Moravi could react, small devices attached themselves to hull surfaces. These devices released a gas that spread through ventilation systems, putting entire crews into deep sleep within. Seconds. The first 100 ships went dark before anyone on the Moravi side understood what was happening. Supreme Commander Dralvax screamed orders from his command ship. "Fire everything. Destroy them." But there was nothing to fire at. The human vessels had already faded back into their hidden dimension. They appeared, struck, and vanished in moments. By the time Moravi weapons powered up, their targets no longer existed in detectable space. Counselor Velith watched in horror as his sensors showed ship after ship losing contact. "This is impossible," he whispered. "They cannot do this. They cannot." But they could. And they did. Sergeant Kan Yuno led a boarding team onto the Moravi flagship itself. A squad appeared on the bridge through a dimensional door that opened from nowhere. The bridge crew had time to see her face before the sleep gas took them. She walked past frozen soldiers to the central throne where Supreme Commander Dralvax sat unconscious. For a moment, she looked at the massive alien who had commanded the destruction of so many worlds. "Sleep well," she said quietly. "When you wake, everything will be different." High Sovereign Morith realized too late that he had made a terrible mistake. He watched from his command chamber as his entire fleet collapsed around him. 2,000 ships, defeated without a single shot being fired against them. His personal guards surrounded him, weapons ready. But what good were weapons against ghosts? The door to his chamber opened, though no one had touched it. A human woman stepped through, small and unarmored, holding nothing but a data tablet. "High Sovereign Morith," she said. "My name is Ambassador Shin Yumbai. We need to talk." Morith's guards raised their weapons, but Yumbai did not flinch. "You can kill me," she said, "but it will not change anything. Your fleet is captured. Your soldiers are sleeping. You have lost. The only question now is what happens next." Morith stared at her for a long moment. He had conquered worlds. He had destroyed civilizations. He had never been defeated in his entire life, and now this tiny creature stood before him, offering him a choice. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice heavy with exhaustion and rage. "The same thing we have wanted from the beginning. Recognition of our borders. Peace between our peoples. Nothing more. And if I refuse?" Yunbai's expression did not change. "Then you will remain our guest until you change your mind. Your soldiers will be treated well. Your ships will be maintained. But you will never see your homeworld again." She handed him the data tablet. "These are the terms. Read them. Consider them. I will wait." Morris read the document. It was exactly what the humans had offered before. Nothing more and nothing less. They did not demand territory. They did not demand resources. They did not even demand an apology. They simply wanted the Moravi to leave them alone. Hours later, a transmission went out across the galaxy. High Sovereign Morith, speaking from his captured flagship, announced that the Moravi Dominion recognized Earth's borders and committed to peaceful relations with humanity. The galaxy watched in stunned silence at the Galactic Council. The announcement caused chaos. Species that had feared the Moravi for centuries suddenly saw them humbled. Delegates who had mocked humanity now looked at the human platform with new eyes. Lieutenant Yunhana recorded everything, as she had throughout the entire crisis. This moment would be remembered forever. Not as a battle, but as a lesson. Admiral Park Tai-ho addressed the council in a final statement. "We do not want war," he said. "We do not want empire. We do not want to conquer or destroy. We want to live in peace, to explore the stars, to learn and grow like any other species." He paused, looking around at the assembled delegates. "But understand this. We are not prey. We are not weak. We have been patient for 2 centuries. We have watched from the shadows. We have never raised our hand against any species that did not first raise their hand against us." His voice hardened slightly. "The Moravi ignored our warnings. They sent their greatest fleet against us. And now that fleet belongs to us. Every ship will be returned. Every soldier will go home. But they will go home with a memory of what happens when you underestimate humanity." He turned to leave, then paused. "We protect what is ours. Remember that." In the years that followed, the border zone around Earth became the most respected boundary in the galaxy. No species crossed it uninvited. The warnings that had once been laughed at were now treated with absolute seriousness. The Moravi Dominion honored their agreement. They continued their conquests elsewhere, but they never again approached human space. Survivors of the Grand Armada told stories of ghost ships and invisible hands, of being defeated without seeing their enemy, of mercy they had never expected and did not fully understand. Intelligence. Officer Nixara returned to her people and eventually rose to become one of the Dominion's senior advisors. She often spoke of what she had learned during her captivity. Strength, she said, was not just about weapons and fleets. True strength was knowing when not to use force. Some Moravi listened. Others did not. But none of them forgot. Captain Bei Jun-seo continued to patrol the border zone aboard the Silent Wind. Sometimes he would drift silently through the darkness, watching the stars, thinking about everything that had happened. Humanity had proven itself, not through destruction, but through restraint. Lieutenant Yunha Na became a historian, documenting the border crisis and its aftermath. Her records became required reading at military academies across the galaxy. She often said that the greatest victory was the one where no one had to die, and somewhere in the silence between stars. Human vessels continued their endless watch, invisible, patient, ready. The warnings about Earth's border were no longer ignored. They never would be again. High Sovereign Morith sat on his throne of black stone, listening as Intelligence Officer Nixara finished her report. The Great Hall was silent. Hundreds of Moravi nobles and military leaders watched from the shadows, none daring to speak. Nixara had told them everything. The capture of the fleets, the technology that could not be detected. The human offered to return all prisoners in exchange for recognition of their borders. When she finished, Morith did not move for a long moment. He was the most powerful being in the Dominion, a warrior who had conquered dozens of worlds himself in his younger days. To him, strength was the only truth in the universe. "You are telling me," Morith said slowly, "that humans defeated 450 of our warships without killing a single soldier?" "Yes." "High Sovereign. And they did this using technology we cannot see, cannot detect, and cannot defend against?" "Yes. Yes." "High Sovereign." Morith stood from his throne. He was massive, even among the Moravi, and his presence filled the room with fear. "And now they offer to return our people if we simply agree to respect their borders?" "Yes." "High Sovereign." Supreme Commander Drelvac stepped forward. "This is unacceptable. The Dominion does not negotiate with lesser species. We do not bow to threats. We must respond with overwhelming force." Councillor Veleth, who had started this disaster with his arrogant announcement at the Galactic Council, nodded in agreement. "The humans are bluffing. They cannot possibly capture our entire military. If we send the Grand Armada over 2,000 ships, they will be forced to negotiate properly." Morith looked at Nixara. "What do you think, Intelligence Officer? You have seen their capabilities firsthand." Nixara felt the weight of every eye in the room upon her. To speak against the Supreme Commander and Councillor Veleth was dangerous. But she had promised herself to tell the truth. "High Sovereign," she said carefully, "I believe the humans are not bluffing. Their technology is beyond anything we have encountered. They captured 50 stealth ships without effort. They could have killed us at any time, but they chose not to. This suggests confidence, not desperation." Veleth laughed cruelly. The opinion of a junior officer who was captured by the enemy. Perhaps her judgment has been affected by her time in human custody. Morith raised his hand, silencing Veleth. "I have heard enough. Assemble the Grand Armada. Every warship in the Dominion. We will teach these humans that the Moravi do not accept terms from anyone." Nixara bowed her head. She had tried. Now all she could do was watch the announcement spread across the galaxy within hours. The Moravi Dominion was gathering the largest fleet in its history. Over 2,000 warships from every corner of their empire were converging on the staging point near Earth's border dot at the Galactic Council. The news caused immediate panic. Emergency sessions were called. Species that had remained neutral in past conflicts suddenly began taking sides. Ambassador Shin Junbai represented humanity at these sessions. She was a small woman with a gentle voice, but there was steel beneath her calm exterior. She had spent decades studying galactic politics and understood how the various species thought. "The Moravi are making a mistake," she told the council. "We have offered them a peaceful solution. We have returned their intelligence officer unharmed as a gesture of good faith. Yet they respond with threats of war." Councillor Veleth, attending via holographic transmission, spoke mockingly. "Your gesture of good faith was an insult. You captured our warriors and treated them like honored guests instead of prisoners. This shows weakness, not strength." Ambassador Shin nodded slowly. "I understand your perspective, Counselor. In Moravi culture, mercy is seen as weakness. But I would ask you to consider another interpretation." She activated a display that showed footage from the human detention facility. Moravi soldiers were visible, all of them alive and healthy. They were being fed, given medical care, and allowed to exercise. None showed signs of torture or mistreatment. We could have killed every soldier we captured, Umbai said. It would have been easier and cheaper. Instead, we chose to preserve their lives. Not because we are weak, but because we do not see unnecessary death as a measure of strength. A delegate from the Fanari Collective spoke up. Ambassador, the Moravi are assembling over 2,000 warships. Even with your remarkable technology, how can you hope to face such a force? We do not hope to face it, Yunbai replied. We know what will happen if the Grand Armada enters our space. The same thing that happened to the Third Fleet. The same thing that happened to the reconnaissance group. No battle, no glory. Just silence. Velith sneered. Empty threats. The Grand Armada is not like the Third Fleet. We will be prepared. We will find countermeasures. You will find nothing, Umbai said simply. Because there is nothing to find. Our technology does not exist in your sensor's reality. You cannot defend against something you cannot perceive. She turned to address the full council. I am making one final offer, publicly, for all the galaxy to witness. If the Moravi Dominion agrees to recognize Earth's borders and commits to peaceful relations, we will return all captured ships and personnel immediately. There will be no punishments, no demands for reparations, no requirements for humiliation. We want only peace. Velith was about to respond when his hologram flickered. A message had arrived from High Sovereign Morith himself. The Moravi Dominion does not recognize the authority of lesser species to set terms, Morith's recorded voice declared. The Grand Armada will launch at dawn. Earth will learn the true meaning of Moravi strength. The council fell silent. Ambassador Shin Yunbai closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, there was deep sadness in her expression. So be it, she said quietly. We gave them every chance. History will remember that. She deactivated her display and left the chamber without another word. On Earth, the news of the Grand Armada's launch spread quickly. Citizens gathered in public spaces, watching the stars and wondering what would happen next. There was fear, certainly, but also a strange calm. They trusted their defenders. They trusted the technology that had protected them for 2 centuries. Admiral Park Teho stood in the command center of Earth Defense Operations, surrounded by officers and displays showing the movement of the Moravi fleet. 2,000 ships were approaching, representing the full military might of one of the galaxy's most aggressive empires. Lieutenant Yun Hana was at her station. NONITORING communications across all frequencies. Admiral, she said, we are receiving transmissions from neutral species. Many of them are expressing concern for Earth. Some are offering to mediate. Thank them for their concern, Park Tae-ho replied. But tell them no mediation is necessary. This will be over quickly. General Choi Soo-min entered the command center, his expression grim. Admiral, our forces are in position. Every Veil ship we have is deployed throughout the border zone. We are ready. Park Tae-ho nodded. What are our rules of engagement? Same as before. No killing unless absolutely necessary. Disable and capture. We want prisoners, not corpses. Captain Bae Jun-seo's voice came through the communication system. He was aboard the Silent Wind, positioned at the edge of the border zone. Admiral, the Grand Armada is approaching. They will cross the border in approximately 2 hours. Park Tae-ho looked at the display showing the massive enemy fleet. 2,000 ships. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers. All of them about to enter a trap they could not see or understand. All units, he said. This is Admiral Park Tae-ho. You know your orders. You know what is at stake. These are not evil creatures coming toward us. They are soldiers following orders, just like you. Remember that. Disable, do not destroy. Capture, do not kill. We are not like them. We are better. He paused, then added, Good luck. Make humanity proud. The waiting began. Nixara opened her eyes slowly. Her head felt heavy, and her thoughts were confused. She tried to move, but found herself lying on a soft surface, not the hard metal floor she expected from a prison cell. She sat up carefully and looked around. The room was small but clean. There was a bed, a table, a chair, and a window that showed stars drifting past. The walls were a gentle white color, and the air smelled fresh thawed. This was not what she had imagined human captivity would be like. The door opened, and a human walked in. He was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a calm expression. He wore a simple uniform with no visible weapons. Good. You are awake, he said. My name is Commander Ode-wan. I am responsible for your care while you are here. How do you feel? Nixara stared at him with suspicion. Where am I? What happened to my crew? You are aboard a human facility in Earth's border zone, Day-One replied. Your crew is safe. They are resting in similar rooms. No one has been harmed. Why? Nixara demanded. We invaded your territory. We are your enemies. Why would you treat us this way? Day-One pulled up the chair and sat down. He seemed genuinely interested in answering her questions, which confused her even more. The Moravi Dominion views all interactions through the lens of conquest and submission, he said. To you, there are only two possibilities. You are the conqueror, or you are the conquered. Humanity sees things differently. Then what do you want? We want peace, Day-One said simply. We want to live in our corner of the galaxy without being threatened. We warned your fleet not to enter our space. We gave them every opportunity to turn back. They chose to ignore those warnings. Nixara thought about this. In Moravi culture, showing mercy to an enemy was considered weakness. Prisoners were executed or enslaved. The concept of capturing enemy soldiers alive and treating them well was foreign to her. What weapon did you use? She asked. Our sensors detected nothing. Our shield showed no impacts. How did you defeat an entire fleet without firing a single shot? Day-One smiled slightly. That is an interesting question. Would you like to know the truth? Yes. He stood and gestured toward the door. Then come with me. There is someone who can explain it better than I can. Nixara followed him through the facility. She saw other Moravi soldiers in rooms similar to hers, all of them apparently unharmed. Human staff moved through the corridors, some nodding politely as she passed. It was strange and unsettling. They reached a large office where an older woman was waiting. She had gray hair tied back neatly and wore a white coat that identified her as a scientist. Intelligence Officer Nixara, Day-One said. This is Dr. M. Sujin. She is the lead scientist of Project Veil. Dr. M bowed slightly in greeting. Please, sit down. I understand you have questions about what happened to your fleet. Nixara sat in the offered chair, her mind racing. Project Veil. This is the weapon you used against us? It is not a weapon, Dr. M said. That is the first thing you must understand. Project Veil was never designed to destroy. It was designed to protect. She activated a display on her desk, showing diagrams and equations that Nixara could not fully understand. When humanity first made contact with galactic civilization, we realized something important, Dr. M explained. We were young compared to other species, weak. Our technology was centuries behind yours. If we tried to compete in conventional warfare, we would lose. So, what did you do? We asked ourselves a different question. Instead of asking how we could build bigger weapons, we asked how we could avoid needing weapons at all. Dr. M changed the display to show a simulation of a spacecraft. For 200 years, our best scientists worked on a single goal: perfect stealth. Not cloaking, which can be detected. Not jamming, which can be overcome. We wanted to create something that could not be seen, heard, or detected by any known method. Nexara leaned forward, fascinated despite herself. That is impossible. Every object in space produces some kind of signature. You are correct, Dr. N said, which is why we did not try to hide the signature. Instead, we found a way to step outside normal space entirely. The simulation showed a ship that seemed to flicker and fade, not becoming invisible, but becoming somehow less real. Our veil technology allows ships to exist in a state between dimensions, Dr. N continued. We can see normal space, but normal space cannot see us. We can interact with objects when we choose to, but otherwise, we are like ghosts, untouchable and unseen. Nexara felt cold. You have been able to do this for 200 years? Yes, we have watched the galaxy from the shadows all this time. We have seen empires rise and fall. We have observed wars and conquests. And we have never revealed ourselves because we hoped we would never need to. Then, why reveal it now? Dr. M's expression became sad. Because your Dominion gave us no choice. We warned your fleet. We begged them to turn back. They laughed at us and continued forward. So we did what we had to do to protect our home. You captured them, Nexara said. All of them, without killing anyone. Yes, every soldier from your third fleet is alive. Every soldier from your reconnaissance group is alive. We have medical staff treating their injuries. We have kitchens preparing food that meets your species' dietary needs. We do not want to hurt anyone. The door opened again, and a new figure entered. He was a tall human with a commanding presence, dressed in a general's uniform. This was General Choi Soo-min, Director of Earth's Border Defense Operations. He nodded to Dr. M and Day One, then turned to face Nexara. Intelligence officer, he said. You have heard the truth about how we defeated your fleet. Now I will tell you what happens next. Nexara stood, trying to match his composure. You will make demands, ransom, territory, resources. No, General Choi said. We will make an offer. He handed her a data tablet containing detailed information. Your Dominion can have everyone back. Every soldier, every ship, every piece of equipment. We will return all of it in perfect condition. Nexara read the information, searching for the hidden cost. What do you want in return? One thing only. The Moravi Dominion must publicly announce that Earth's borders are to be respected. No more invasions. No more threats. You may continue your conquests elsewhere if you choose, but you will not enter our space again. And if we refuse? General Choi's eyes hardened. Then we will keep your people as our guests indefinitely, and we will return your ships to the Dominion one piece at a time, starting with the command staff. Nexara understood the threat beneath the polite words. It was not a threat of violence, but of humiliation. The Moravi valued strength above all else. To have their warriors captured and held without resistance, to be unable to rescue them, to be forced to accept human terms, would be devastating to Moravi pride. Why are you telling me this? She asked. I am just an intelligence officer. I have no power to make such decisions. Because you are intelligent, General Choi replied. You have seen the truth of our capabilities. When you return to your people, you will be able to explain what you saw. Perhaps your leaders will listen to you. Perhaps they will make the wise choice. He turned and walked toward the door. Vividor, we will send you back to the Dominion tomorrow with our message. What happens after that depends on your High Sovereign's decision. Nexara stayed in her room that night, unable to sleep. She thought about everything she had seen and heard. The humans were not weak. They had never been weak. They had simply chosen a different kind of strength, one that the Moravi could not understand, and now the fate of her people might depend on whether anyone would believe her. Supreme Commander Drelvax stood in the war room of the Moravi High Command. His massive body was tense with rage. Around him, military officers and intelligence analysts worked at their stations, all of them afraid to meet his eyes. The Third Fleet was gone. 400 warships, 60,000 soldiers, and some of the finest commanders in the Dominion had vanished without a trace. No wreckage had been found. No escape pods had been detected. No distress signals had been received. The only message from the humans was 4 simple words: "You were warned." Drelvax slammed his fist on the central display table, cracking the screen. "This is impossible," he roared. "Ships do not simply disappear. There must be wreckage, energy signatures, something." Intelligence Officer Nixara stepped forward carefully. She was younger than most officers in the room, but her analytical skills had earned her a place in high command. Her purple scales caught the light as she moved. "Supreme Commander," she said, "I have reviewed all available data from our sensor networks. The Third Fleet crossed into human space at standard formation speed. For approximately 2 hours, all systems appeared normal. Then, starting with the outer ships, contact was lost one by one. Lost how?" Drelvax demanded. "Unknown, sir. There were no explosions, no weapons fire, no unusual energy readings. Each ship simply stopped transmitting. By the time the flagship realized something was wrong, over half the fleet was already dark." Drelvax turned to face her directly. He was twice her size, and his presence was terrifying. "Are you telling me that 400 warships were destroyed without firing a single shot?" Nixara hesitated. "Sir, I am not certain they were destroyed. The complete absence of debris suggests something else happened, but I cannot explain what." Another officer spoke up. "Perhaps it was a natural phenomenon, an unknown space anomaly. The humans could not possibly have the technology to do this." Drelvax considered this. It was easier to believe in some cosmic accident than to accept that humans had somehow defeated the Third Fleet. Humans were weak. Everyone knew this. They had no great weapons, no massive fleets, no history of conquest. "Send a reconnaissance group," Drelvax ordered. 50 stealth ships, our best crews. I want to know exactly what happened in that sector. Tell them to observe only, no engagement." The orders were transmitted immediately. Within hours, the stealth group was assembled and ready to depart. Meanwhile, deep inside Earth's border zone, Captain Bei Junseo sat in the command chair of the ESS Silent Wind. His ship was small compared to Moravi vessels, designed for speed and silence rather than combat. Around him, his crew of 30 worked quietly at their stations. Sergeant Kang Yuna stood beside him, her eyes fixed on the sensor display. She was responsible for security aboard the Silent Wind, though in truth, they rarely encountered threats they could not avoid. "Captain," Yuna said, "we have contacts at the edge of the zone. 50 vessels, Moravi configuration." Junisio nodded slowly. "Stealth ships. They are trying to investigate what happened to their fleet. Should we engage?" "No," the captain replied. "Our orders are to observe and report. Let them come." The Silent Wind held its position, completely invisible to Moravi sensors. This was the secret that humanity had spent 2 centuries developing. Not bigger weapons or faster ships, but the ability to become absolutely undetectable. The Moravi stealth ships entered the border zone in a careful formation. They moved slowly, scanning everything around them. Their technology was impressive by galactic standards, capable of hiding from most detection methods, but the humans could see them perfectly. Yuna watched the enemy ships on her display. "They think they are hidden," she said with a slight smile. "Their cloaking systems are active. The Moravi build excellent technology. Juncio acknowledged. But they build it based on what they know. They have never encountered anything like Project Veil. He touched a control on his chair, sending the locations of all 50 enemy vessels to command. Somewhere in the darkness of space, other human ships received this information and began to move. Intelligence Officer Nixara sat aboard one of the stealth ships, watching her sensors carefully. Hours passed with nothing unusual appearing on any screen. The space around them was empty and silent. Perhaps there really was nothing here, another officer suggested. The Third Fleet might have suffered some kind of system failure. Nixara shook her head. 400 ships do not experience the same system failure simultaneously. Something is here. We are simply not seeing it. She was right, though she had no way of knowing how close the truth was. At that very moment, 3 human vessels were positioned within a few hundred meters of her ship. They were completely invisible, not through cloaking technology, but through something far more advanced. Project Veil did not hide ships from sensors. It made ships exist outside normal space entirely. They could see everything around them, but nothing could see them. It was as if they were ghosts, watching from another dimension. The first Moravi stealth ship vanished without warning. Its crew had no time to react. One moment they were scanning space. The next moment they were unconscious, their ship drifting silently. Nixara saw the contact disappear from her sensors. "Ship 7 is gone," she reported. No distress signal, no energy discharge. The commander of her vessel immediately ordered the group to tighten formation. But it made no difference. Ship after ship went dark, each one taken so quickly and quietly that the others never saw what happened. Inside the captured vessels, Moravi soldiers slept peacefully. The humans had not killed them. They had simply released a gas that put them into deep unconsciousness. Each ship was then towed away by invisible hands, taken to locations that no Moravi would ever find on their own. Nixara watched her screen with growing horror. 40 ships gone. 30. 20. The formation was collapsing around her, and still she could not see what was attacking them. "All ships retreat," the commander ordered. "Get out of the sector now." But it was too late. One by one, the remaining vessels fell silent. Nixara's ship was among the last. She had time to see something impossible on her sensor display. Just for a moment, a human vessel materialized inside their shields. It had not approached from outside. It had simply appeared, as if stepping through a door from somewhere else. Before she could speak or move, she felt a strange drowsiness wash over her. Her eyes grew heavy. The last thing she saw was the face of a human soldier looking at her through the bridge window. Then everything went dark. Aboard the Silent Wind, Captain Beijumseo received confirmation that all 50 stealth ships had been captured. 0 casualties on both sides, Yuna reported. All Moravi personnel are alive and secured. Junseo leaned back in his chair. He felt no joy in this victory, only a quiet sadness. The Moravi had been warned. They had chosen not to listen. Now they would have to face the consequences of that choice. "Send a report to Admiral Park Taiho," he ordered. "Inform him that the reconnaissance group has been neutralized. The Moravi now have 450 ships in our custody, and approximately 70,000 prisoners." Yuna nodded and transmitted the message. Far away, in the halls of Moravi High Command, Supreme Commander Drelvax received the news that his stealth group had also disappeared. This time, a message accompanied the silence. "Your people are alive. They are unharmed. If you wish to see them again, you will listen to what we have to say." Drelvax stared at the message for a long time. For the first time in his long military career, he felt something he had never experienced before: fear. The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was filled with representatives from 100 different worlds. Strange creatures of all shapes and sizes sat in their designated seats. Some had scales. Others had fur. A few were made of pure light. They had gathered here for thousands of years to discuss matters of peace and war among the stars. Admiral Park Tae-ho stood at the human delegation's platform. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. His uniform was simple compared to the colorful robes worn by other species. Behind him stood Lieutenant Yoon Ha-na, a young woman with sharp eyes who served as his communications officer. She held a small device in her hands, ready to record everything. Today's session was not about peace. It was about a warning. Councillor Veleth of the Moravi Dominion rose from his seat. He was a massive creature with dark blue skin and 4 arms. His people had conquered 17 star systems in the past 10 years. They were known throughout the galaxy as warriors who showed no mercy. Veleth looked down at the human delegation with obvious disgust. "The Moravi Dominion wishes to announce a military exercise," Veleth said. His voice was deep and carried across the entire hall. "Our third fleet will pass through Sector 7 Alpha in 7 standard days. This is a matter of navigation, nothing more." Whispers spread through the council. Everyone knew what Sector 7 Alpha was. It was the border zone around Earth, the home planet of humanity. Admiral Park Tae-ho stepped forward. His voice was calm but firm. "Councillor Veleth, Sector 7 Alpha is designated human territory under Galactic Treaty 4471. Any unauthorized entry will be considered an act of aggression." Veleth laughed. It was a cruel sound that echoed through the hall. "An act of aggression? Against whom? Your species has been part of galactic civilization for barely 200 years. You have no dreadnoughts. You have no planet-destroying weapons. Your military budget is smaller than our food budget." Several other delegates laughed along with Veleth. The Moravi had powerful friends, species who benefited from their conquests. Park Tae-ho did not smile. He did not show anger. He simply waited for the laughter to stop before speaking again. "I am delivering a formal warning to this council," he said. "Any vessel that enters Earth's border zone without permission will face immediate response. This is not a threat. This is a statement of fact." Veleth waved one of his 4 arms dismissively. "And what will you do, human? Send your tiny patrol ships against our 400 warships? The Third Fleet has destroyed civilizations older than your entire species." "I am not here to argue," Park Tae-ho replied. "I am here to warn. The choice is yours." He turned and walked back to his seat. Lieutenant Yoon Ha-na followed him, her face showing no emotion. But inside, her heart was beating fast. She had served under the Admiral for 5 years. She had never seen him so serious. The council session continued with other matters, but the tension remained. When it finally ended, delegates from several species approached the human platform. Some offered words of sympathy. Others simply shook their heads in pity. The delegate from the Fanari Collective, a species of small furry creatures known for their intelligence, stopped in front of Park Tae-ho. "Admiral," the Fanari said quietly, "I have great respect for humanity. Your people are kind and creative, but the Moravi will destroy you. Perhaps it would be wiser to allow them passage and avoid conflict." Park Tae-ho looked down at the small creature. "Thank you for your concern," he said. "But we cannot allow others to pass through our home as if we do not exist. That is not who we are." The Fanari sighed sadly and walked away. On the journey back to Earth, Lieutenant Yoon Ha-na sat in the Admiral's private office aboard their transport ship. The stars streamed past the window as they traveled through hyperspace. "Sir," Hana said, "do you think they will actually come?" Park Tae-ho nodded slowly. "The Moravi do not make empty threats. They announce their intentions publicly. If they back down now, they will appear weak. They will come. 400 warships, Hana whispered. Our entire border patrol has less than 50 vessels. The admiral smiled for the first time that day. It was a strange smile, one that Hana could not understand. Numbers are not everything, Lieutenant, he said. The Moravi believe strength comes from size and firepower. They have conquered many worlds with that belief. But they have never faced an enemy like us. What do you mean, sir? Park Tae-ho looked out at the stars. When humanity first joined galactic civilization, we realized something important. We could never match the older species in conventional warfare. They had thousands of years to build their fleets. We had only decades. So our leaders made a different choice. He paused, as if remembering something from long ago. We stopped trying to be stronger. Instead, we became something else entirely. Hana wanted to ask more questions, but she could see that the admiral was lost in thought. She had heard rumors about secret human projects, technologies that no other species knew about. But she had never seen any evidence of them. 7 days later, the Moravi Third Fleet arrived at the edge of Earth's border zone. 400 warships of various sizes formed a massive wall of metal and weapons. At the center was the flagship, a vessel so large it could have held an entire city inside. Lieutenant Yoon Hana sat at her communications station aboard the S-Sentinel, the main patrol vessel guarding the border. Her screens showed the approaching fleet. Thousands of weapon signatures lighting up like angry stars. Admiral Park Tae-ho stood behind her, watching calmly. Open a channel, he ordered. Hana activated the broadcast system. Her voice would reach every ship in the Moravi fleet. Attention, Moravi Third Fleet, she said. You are approaching Earth's designated border zone. This is restricted space under Galactic Treaty 4471. Turn back immediately. This is your only warning. The response came quickly. It was Counselor Veleth himself, speaking from the flagship. Human vessel, Veleth said with amusement in his voice. Your warning is noted and ignored. The Moravi Dominion does not take orders from lesser species. We will pass through your space, and there is nothing you can do to stop us. The channel closed. Hana looked at the admiral. Sir, they are not stopping. They are increasing speed. Park Tae-ho nodded. Then we have done everything we can. Pull our patrol vessels back to safe distance. Sir, we are retreating. We are repositioning, the admiral said. What happens next does not require our presence. The Sentinel and the other patrol ships moved away from the border zone. On Hana's screen, she watched the Moravi fleet cross the invisible line that marked Earth's territory. Then something strange happened. One by one, the Moravi ships began to go dark. Their signals disappeared from her sensors. No explosions. No energy discharges. No distress calls. They simply stopped existing on every scanner and monitoring device. Hana's hands trembled as she watched. 400 ships, gone in less than 6 hours. Admiral, she whispered, what just happened? Park Tae-ho placed a hand on her shoulder. The Moravi ignored our warning. Now they will learn why that was a mistake. He walked toward the exit, then paused at the door. Send one message to Moravi High Command, he said. Just 4 words, Hana nodded, her fingers ready. You were warned.